Morning, Toby Barnett with the Barnett Associates Team, and here to talk to you today about septic systems. So in North County and East County, we have a lot of properties being served by on-site septic systems. Now, every county is different, and if you're watching from another area, I would recommend checking with maybe your local health department or county to see what kind of information you can find on it. But so for this video, it's strictly going to look at Snohomish County and kind of the requirements, where to find information, and just things to pay attention to when if you have a home with a septic, you're looking to sell it, or you're looking to buy a home with a septic, or you're just kind of more curious about how your septic is designed and how it's supposed to function. So when buying a home in Snohomish County with a septic system, we have statewide forms provided by our MLS, and the form number is actually 22S, and it's the septic system that governs it for Snohomish County. Now, there's a different one that governs it for King, so just check with your local municipality or your local agent down there to find out more information on their maintenance records and all that kind of stuff. I think it's a 22SK. But anyways, so in our statewide form for Snohomish County, we have, the seller has to represent, is it a private or shared? Now, a shared system, is when two or more houses are connected up to it. Typically, we don't see a whole bunch of those. Usually, they're all private and individual that just serve one home. But that's not always the case. How a property was originally designed with two dwellings, sharing one septic, then it's subdivided. So just check on that. Also, the seller has to represent that, to the best of their knowledge, there is no repairs needed, and if there is any maintenance records that have been done over time, like say pumping, inspections, stuff like that, the periodic ones that are recommended, then the seller has to provide those to the buyer, which is actually a 10-day default period on that. So once a buyer gets under contract on a purchase, or a seller gets under contract on a sale, then the seller has 10 days by default to provide any maintenance records to the buyer for their review. Now, the fourth item governs the city and county inspections, and it just states that the seller shall comply with all the city and county requirements for their on-site septic system, and which is pretty common. Not a whole, in all my career, I haven't seen too many situations where that wouldn't be the default case. However, it's a good idea for every buyer to do their own due diligence when looking at a septic, permits, and all that kind of stuff. So also, it comes into, if a septic hasn't been pumped in the last 12 months and there's no records of it, seller shall have the septic inspected and pumped prior to closing and provide buyer with proof of the same. Well, not prior to closing, but within 10 days of mutual acceptance again. So there is a default time period. So if you're selling your home or thinking about selling, it's probably a good idea just to go ahead and get it pumped and inspected, and then that can be provided to the buyer right up front, and then you can just alleviate any concern the buyer might have with an on-site septic system. I see when people have never lived with one, they've always been on city sewer, there's just they can be kind of scary because they just don't know how it works. And we'll go through some information on here just in a minute where you can look up yours or look up a properties. So, and there's also the buyer's right to attend that inspection. So in the form, underneath the inspection, pumping, and inspection, there's a checkbox that allows the buyer to attend it. That way, a buyer can attend and meet the septic company and then ask any questions on how the system works, because some have UV lights, some don't, some have aerators, some don't, and how big are the tanks, where are they located, where's the drain field, and all those things come into factor when you're living with one. How to treat it, what not to put in it. That one can cause a lot of pain. And also, if the buyer approves, and the last item is the buyer's approval or disapproval of the on-site septic system inspection that, and move forward and alleviate that contingency from the purchase and sale. But it just gives the buyer an opportunity to really check into it. So where do we look and find septic reports online? So you want to go to dav.snohd.org, and that's the department, let's see, stands for Drain Field Awareness and Vital Education through the Snohomish County Health Department. So the health department, I think, is located out there on Wetmore or Rucker. So you could go out there and physically go in, or go to dav.snohd.org and then either enter the tax parcel ID, the property address, property owner name, and it can pull up if the as-built has been scanned and uploaded to the system. If it's not online, then you just got to go down to the Snohomish County Health Department and then pull it up there, because it just may not have been scanned up and uploaded into the system. So that's where you can go get your as-built. And the as-built will show the original application, drain field design. So if you're curious on where your drain field is, where your tanks are located because you can't find the green lids, then the as-built's going to tell you exactly where you can find all that stuff. And also, septic companies will also be able to do it, because they also pull as-builts before they come out and do services too, so they know what they're looking at, so they're just not guessing where the tanks may be. Because a lot of times in older homes, sometimes the grass just grows over the tanks, people haven't pumped them in a while, and so it just makes it easier to find. So some of the questions, Joy and I were actually just talking this morning about some of the things, especially when homes go from septic and that are converted to city sewer. So with that, a couple of years ago, I had a property that I was a selling agent, and it was on septic, and that was decommissioned and then hooked up to city sewer when the builder subdivided the home, or subdivided the property into additional building lots. So unbeknownst to us, it was the builder said it was all connected. We verified that, and or verified that it was through the city that it was able to connect, and all the mitigation fees were paid. About 8 months later, or about 6 months later, the buyer calls me and is like, Toby, the bottom bathroom isn't draining. And in the purchase and sale and the home inspection, there is a line item that allows the buyer to scope the lines. The buyer didn't want to do that in that case because it was just hooked up to city sewer, so we figured everything was good. But when it started backing up, started doing some additional research, and the contractor never hooked up, or the lower bathroom was never hooked up to the city sewer. It was just capped. So it caused a headache, had to dig it up and then get it reconnected, and everything worked out fine. It was just a big old headache at the point of, okay, what to do, how to go about it. But anyways, it can be done. Also, another case, I was the listing agent. We had we're selling a house that was converted from septic to city sewer, and the city never was billing the property for sewer capacity charges. And so when we sold it after the close of escrow and both parties were signed and done, and it's recorded at the county, new buyer goes to hook up at the county or at the city, and they're like unaware that the property was even on city sewer. So my client, the seller, had to back pay a lot of bills, the sewer bills that the city just didn't do. You would think there would be some repercussions if it was their fault that they didn't know their property was hooked up, or that property was hooked up and they should be billing it. The city doesn't work that way. They're gonna stick someone with a bill. Joy had one where she had a colleague, and they were talking about one where it was sewer connection fee was an illegal hookup, and the city charged that new buyer $30,000 for the hookup and back fees and stuff like that. So the septic and the drain field information is vital for buying a house, or vital to know when buying a house. That way, you know it's all hooked up. 2, that it's working properly, and 3, that there isn't something else that you should be concerned about. If you are, buyer needs to go down to either their local municipality and check and make sure that if it is a conversion, it's or converted to city sewer, that everything was done properly. And then 2, also know all the information they need when they're purchasing a house with a septic system, because if they're treated badly, not treated right, put the wrong things down them, and the drain field backs up and is no longer functioning, it can be a huge expense, because then you have to have a whole new drain field put in. So going through a perk test, and then if you don't have a reserve area already scheduled in the previous as-built, there's a lot of hoops to actually just jump through, and the professionals will be able to guide you through that. But for the statewide stuff and the purchase and sale of a property, you know, that 22 SS form in the Northwest MLS is going to cover a buyer's or protect a buyer and have the ability for a buyer to have it, the seller to have it inspected and pumped, and buyer to review so, and then in a certain time frame, so they can make a decision if they want to move forward with their purchase or not. So anyways, that's just a little bit about septic systems. If you're curious what one looks like, we'll just take a quick look right here. You know, these are tanks. And here you have an alarm, the UV, and circuit breakers. So then also, you know, aerator or blower. But it's easier to see drain fields from the air, but we can kind of get a gist of it here. You can kind of see the drain field run lines here on the left, and then the second one is about right in here, and then the third one you can kind of see come out that way. So anyways, that's just kind of your basic drain field. And so if you have any questions regarding drain fields, how home inspections or purchase and sale contracts and septic systems, and how to go about that, just leave it in the comments below. Send me an email at Toby at barnettassociates.net. Give me a call at 425-210-0709. Happy to help your questions. Send you the link to where you can find your as-built. But anyways, hope this was helpful, and look for more educational videos coming on the way. So enjoy the day. It's going to be another nice one, and talk to you soon.